Today I'm here at my boiler and I noticed that this temperature and pressure gauge, also called a tridicator, it's quite dirty. Seems like water may have gotten into it. And you can see as the temperature is like, way super high. And I know it's not, otherwise we'd have had major problems by now. So that's kind of told me that this unit is already shot. So I've done a little bit of research of which one to replace. You see, notice it has a kind of a short stem here. So I looked one that had a short stem in Amazon. Now, anytime you do work in this type of units, I always recommend you do it with a professional, but I feel comfortable myself doing this job, so I'm going to do it myself. As with any jobs, you definitely want to make sure that the power is off. So this here shuts up the power. And even though we're going to be working just with the water supply part of the system, you don't want the boiler to turn on when you have the whole piece out. So make sure that you always have the power off so the boiler cannot get started behind you. The other important piece of this is really for you to, drain the water out of the system. And you really have to know, how to do that piece, right? You can see that there's different handles here to shut off the valves to each of the zones. So what I'm going to do is close all of those, and then at the end of the return pipe here, have a hose that's going to allow me to drain the system. But it's only going to be the water that's in these pipes. That's the return pipe. This is the feeder pipe, and the water that's inside the boiler. So again, you got to remove any type of pressure that's in the system, and you got to do that by draining the water out. In my case, I don't really need to turn off each of the zones here. What I'm going to do, this is the feeder line for all of the zones. I can just turn this pipe off. This is the fresh water intake. I'm gonna close that off as well. And then I also have the expansion tank that's putting pressure there, so I'm gonna close that as well. You gotta remember to undo all of this when the job is done. All right, so now there's no water that can come in here. I can then open up my line right here, and that will drain the return pipe and the boiler. And so here's the replacement unit that I bought from Amazon. I think the manufacturer is PIC. It's about $25, and what I liked about this one is that it has a phase you could actually set and move around to the temperature that you have your aquastat set to. So you could always have that as a point of remembering. It is a 1/4 inch MPT. MPT refers to the National Pipe Thread standard that gives you how many threads are per square inch or per inch. So this is 1/4 inch. Even you'll see it's actually thicker than a 1/4 inch. That's fine. Their numbers run small compared to the actual diameter of the pipe. So it's got a short stem. I believe that's what I have in my unit as well. So now that I take it out, I'll confirm that. You do need to put Teflon tape or plumber's tape or pipe seal tape, whatever. They all go by the same name. I just bought this at Amazon for a couple of bucks, three or some dollars. So in my case, in order to drain the boiler, what I've done is I closed the supply line that goes to each of the zones here. That's closed. Then I closed each of the zones, so you don't want the water coming down and draining those lines. I got my return open that's going to come out of the boiler here in the bottom and drain the water out of the boiler. The other important piece is this is the cold water feed. I've closed it, and also the one for the expansion tank, so no water should be coming in here now. Right? And the pressure should start to go down, which I see here in my broken gauge, but it seems to have done that. So you'll just have to be careful when you do yours so you're completely sure that there's no pressure. This is why I recommend you leave that to a professional. Otherwise there's going to be a lot of water coming out from there. I'm using a pair of pliers to loosen this up. So far no water's coming out. Maybe you could expect a little bit. I'm sure the pipe doesn't drain completely. But I wanted to show that definitely it does look like this gauge has been damaged. Here's the underside of it. You can see there was quite a bit of water, coming out of there. So this is definitely a gun gauge at this point. think I'm getting lucky and I'm not getting any water. There's a little bit of air that fizzed out of there, but nothing really bad. So this is the old unit. The replacement is on the side. And it looks like they maybe have the same size stem, so it should be working fine. So I've added a Teflon tape to it. It's just now a matter of hand screwing it in here, and then I'll use the. All right, so now I'm just refilling the system. All I did is open my supply line there, open my my water and my expansion tank, and of course I closed the return drain over there. And you could actually hear that it's filling up the system automatically. And the water pressure should start to go up. Takes a little bit, but you could actually hear filling in. I can see the system is automatically filling it into the desired pressure. That's a little bit, close to 15 psi's. And that's because this autofiller right here is set for 15 psi. So this brings in the cold water in my system and it keeps it at 15 psi. There's a maximum of 30 psi in my system, so there's a pressure relief valve here. After it reaches 30 psi, this should open up and get the water out to the drain. My system was a little bit higher than 15 before. It's probably around 25. So what I'm going to do in my case, I can lift this lever here and let a little bit more water in. And if I go a little bit over, then it's easy to just open again the drain and let some of it out. Alright, so I just powered on the system. I want to verify this, that the boiler will go on and the temperature gauge will reach the 180 degrees that my aquastat is set for. So I'll be here for a little bit just waiting for that temperature to go up. Alright, so the boiler just turned off. I set the mark here. That should be about 180 where the aquastat is set to. Maybe it's a little higher than that, but that's fine. I just set it there so I know if it ever goes higher. Then the water pressure is approaching 30. I'll probably release a little bit. Also what I'm going to do now is, sometimes I get air bubbles in the lines. I'm just going to purge those lines, each of the zones in the house. But this job is complete as far as replacing this piece.